This is my lesson plan evaluation, and I chose My Dad's at War. The lesson plan does contain a writing component entitled Why Say It Like That. It has a worksheet that allows the students the opportunity to analyze the author's choice of words from the article. It also has like a write about it section, which asks the students how the author's use of emotional language contributes to the article's main idea, and asks for examples to support their answers. In addition to the main lesson, there were some little short lessons within it, and they also incorporated a writing component. There was also a portion that asked the students to create a Venn diagram in order for them to use compare and contrast. I think that through the close reading questions posed after reading the cover story, that it does require the students to interact as an intellectual community to an extent. The lessons contained 4 questions to be addressed in class after reading the article. 1 is over the main idea, and the other 3 address text evidence. The question allows the students to share their knowledge of learning and what they learned from the article. The skills focus section of the lesson allowed the students to explain how an author's word choice affects the author's main idea. This section lets the student get familiar with using the language of the discipline of an author or writer, and the skills focus section also gets the students to think aloud and communicate with each other why the author, and ask them why the author used the language he used within the article. The Why Say It Like That worksheet is a project-based activity that the students can complete individually. The project let the students get into the head of the author. By doing this, the student gets to develop the mindset of an author. The project allows the students to go through the process of what a real author goes through as they write. The worksheet asks the students what the phrase given makes them think, and then why the student thinks the author chose the phrase. And that's probably a similar thought process that an author uses. The short lesson on the mini articles within the main lesson contain a project-based activity also. After reading the 2 articles, the students are asked to create the Venn diagram that compares and contrasts paleontologists to archaeologists, and has them write about which job they would prefer to have and why. By doing this, the students are putting themselves in the mindset of a specific type of scientist. The research the students do on the different jobs introduces them to the language of the scientific discipline. The cover story lesson plan, My Dad's at War, does require students to learn, use, and know a specific set of behaviors dedicated to the discipline of writing and being an author. The lesson teaches the students how to think like an author, use the language of an author, and ultimately write like an author. The additional lessons on getting the gist also requires the students to first learn about 2 types of scientific jobs, and then use their knowledge of what they have learned by comparing and contrasting them, and then write about which one they would rather like to do. By doing this research, the students were introduced to scientific terminology and forced to think like a scientist by them choosing to pick the profession they would like to do most. In conclusion, the lesson plan as a whole would be very effective in teaching finding the main ideas and using text evidence to answer questions about the article. The lesson's objective allows the students to explain how an author's word choice affects the article's main idea and puts the student in the position of an author. The cover story used for the students to read and analyze also brings to light events that have occurred and how they affect the lives of children all over, the United States. The lesson contains all the elements of a quality lesson plan. The writing component, interaction as an intellectual community, a project-based activity, and the opportunity for the students to think like an author makes for a lesson plan that will allow the students to think in the specific discipline of a writer. And I apologize for the humming in the background. Thank you.